Governor John Cox was in LA today visiting Skid Row. We'll hear from Cox on how he plans to help the homeless.
His opponent, Democrat Gavin Newsom, was also in LA, describing some of his policies in Venice. We'll show you that as well.
And a plan to regulate sober living facilities was discussed today. One facility by USC may be affected.
Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
When I'm the governor of the state, we're going to exercise compassion for people who need help.
It's folks like folks back behind this wall that are volunteering every day, that are proof positive, real leaders.
Both California gubernatorial candidates were in LA today talking about several issues. Good evening, I'm Roy Pankey.
And I'm Sophia Hausch. John Cox was on Skid Row to advocate for the homeless, but first, today Democratic candidate Gavin Newsom talked about some policy proposals at the St. Joseph Center in Venice. Newsom says if elected governor, he will encourage service and volunteerism in every community in California and work to reduce homelessness.
We're pulled out of poverty over a very short period of time. We can achieve that here in California by being resolved, by being committed to advancing the same kind of core principles that were advantaged and advanced in the 1960s. And so that's the spirit of this moment. That's the spirit that inspired this moment and why we're announcing it here and announcing it today. I'm a Sarge Shriver.
He also supports increasing women's rights in the workplace as well as gun safety. Newsom is a proponent of universal health care and more affordable housing, as well as better mental health treatment. Newsom met with volunteers and customers at the St. Joseph Center. The center provides homeless men, women, and families with opportunities and resources to get jobs and succeed in their communities.
Republican candidate John Cox was on Skid Row today advocating for the homeless. Annenberg Media's A'ali'i Duclo was there with Cox to see how his plans would impact Skid Row.
Right now, we need help.
This was one of the many cries for help gubernatorial candidate John Cox heard as he walked through Skid Row.
The homeless situation in this state is an absolute tragedy. It is absolutely not compassionate to let people live on the street.
A man who lives in an apartment building near the area says the government isn't doing enough to help the homeless.
The government is spinning its wheels. It's throwing money at programs that don't work.
This man has been living on the streets of Skid Row for a couple months. He calls himself Greedy Hen.
Hell, it's like living in jail. Sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's ugly.
He says there are specific things the next governor could provide to help him and other homeless people.
Counseling classes, help people get jobs.
Another concern that residents brought up was the lack of affordable housing, because there's a lot of apartment buildings in the area, but a lot of residents have to stay on the streets or in tents.
The Republican candidate says he has a plan to get people off the streets and into homes.
We're going to build affordable homes. That's lower cost homes.
But Greedy Hen says he's not sure if Cox will give him or any other homeless people on Skid Row the help they need.
What he done for me or for this person next to me? Ain't done nothing. Just all talk. You know, till I see action, maybe I'll start caring.
Democratic candidate Gavin Newsom agrees that he has yet to see action from Cox on the homelessness issue.
He opposed the minimum wage increase for those that are getting the job training in programs all around Skid Row to have the opportunity to climb that ladder and to have a living wage job. He opposed that.
Cox, however, says he plans to invest in programs that help homeless people get back into society. For Annenberg Media, I'm A'ali'i Duclo.
A new study by the Pew Research Center indicates a steady growth in the number of eligible Hispanic voters. Michaela Bean shows the role these young voters could have in the upcoming midterm election.
Students from the Latino Student Association at USC's Price School of Public Policy are working to inspire other Latino students to become politically active.
I think for the most part, young people in general are pretty interested in certain things that have politicized being young, actually. Like, for example, the Parkland incident. That is an issue that affects all young people, actually.
The report by the Pew Research Center shows just 16% of eligible Latinos ages 18 to 35 voted in the 2014 midterm elections. According to the Pew Research Center, California has the largest population of eligible Hispanic voters, totaling over 7.7 million. Young voters make up a large portion of this demographic. Across the country, over 3.3 million eligible Hispanic voters have turned 18 since the last midterm elections in 2014.
It's been really hard in the last couple of years where the political messaging has been almost repressive towards a lot of Latino communities as far as getting out to vote, I think.
Crooked Media's political director, Shaniqua McClendon, agrees that politicians should focus their messaging on more universal issues in order to get more young Latinos to the polls.
They care about issues other than immigration. And so it doesn't matter what race you are, you still want a job, you still want to be able to afford education, and you still want to be prosperous in this country. So politicians really have to stop going into Hispanic communities and saying immigration, because that's not the only thing that they care about.
With midterm elections only 3 weeks away, it remains to be seen whether or not young Latino voters will turn out to the polls. For Annenberg Media, I'm Michaela Bean.
Proposition 4 authorizes $1.5 billion in bonds for renovation, expansion, and new equipment for children's hospitals in California. Our reporter Nicole Nie was at one hospital today where Mayor Eric Garcetti endorsed the proposition.
Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti visited Children's Hospital Los Angeles today. He expressed his support for Proposition 4. The measure would fund 13 children's hospitals in California.
This is one of the best investments we can make. We all prosper, not just because it's the right thing to do, but we know how expensive it is later in life if children don't get the care that they need early on to have a good start.
Allison Page was diagnosed with a bone disease at 9. He says he hopes that bonds issued by Proposition 4 can advance technologies to help children with complex diseases.
Because the way they figure that out is they take a bone x-ray, but without the high technology, they wouldn't have been able to figure that out. So I wouldn't have been over like 5 feet tall.
One children's hospital doctor says the funds will also enable the hospital to treat patients not well protected by insurance.
Hospitals such as this will never be favorable for reimbursement. And it's because we are able to have these special resources and funds that allow us to grow to be available for more patients.
Despite the merits talked above, opposers against the Proposition 4 argue that public funds should not be spent on private hospitals. On the website of the League of Women Voters of California, the organization says that private hospitals can fund their renovation either through revenue they generate or capital campaigns. Proposition 4 will be decided by California voters next month. For Annenberg Media, I'm Nicole Nie.
California Democrats are out-financing their Republican opponents in the race for House of Representatives.
Our political anchor Morgan Stevens has more. Morgan?
That's right. The Federal Election Commission is reporting that California Democratic candidates for Congress have raised nearly $75 million more than their Republican counterparts. This could give them an advantage in the last weeks of the campaign. Democrat Gil Cisneros has the largest financial advantage. He's raised nearly $4.5 million more than his opponent, Young Oh Kim. Democrat Katie Hill is a close second in the money race. She's raised $3.3 million more than incumbent Steve Knight. Democrat Josh Harder has raised $2.9 million more than his opponent, Jeff Denham. That's a big change from last election when nationwide Republican candidates for Congress outraised Democrats by nearly $85 million. This year, Democratic candidates' donors have collected $202 million more than Republicans.
Democrats are likely to be competitive in those districts. That's no guarantee they're going to win, but it does mean that they're likely to, again, get their advertising out, get their poll workers out, mobilize, do their voter outreach, and be kind of actively campaigning down to the very end.
Every California Democrat campaigning for the House of Representatives is running for the first time. We'll know in exactly 3 weeks just how much money matters. Back to you.
President Trump threatened to stop sending aid to Honduras today if a caravan of migrants continues traveling towards the U.S. In 2017, the U.S. sent over $175 million in aid to Honduras, according to the U.S. Agency for International Development. A group of about 160 migrants began the journey from the Honduran city of San Pedro Sula on Friday. The caravan grew to at least 1,500 migrants as they crossed the border into Guatemala yesterday. The migrants cited poverty and threats of violence as reasons for immigrating from Honduras, where over 60% of the population lives in poverty and the murder rate remains one of the highest in the world. I spoke to a USC student from Honduras about living there and what it's like.
I know money is really necessary to be able to generate growth and development, but I think Honduras needs more of a structural change. I think it needs more of in the institutions and the entire government and the way the education system is built. I think that whole thing needs restructuring.
The migrants said they plan to stay in Mexico or the U.S., where there is a legal obligation to hear asylum claims if seekers have a credible fear of violence in their home countries.
Sober living facilities may become more closely regulated. Today, the Orange County Board of Supervisors approved a plan to reduce fraud and malpractice in the industry that is supposed to help recovering addicts. If LA County introduces similar regulations, they could impact USC's Haven House. Haven House helps students deal with drug and alcohol addiction and provides a sober living residence. The student care manager thinks more regulation is a good idea.
I think it would be most responsible to have some amount of oversight from professionals just to make sure that, that the house is sober, that people are safe and that they're not being taken advantage of. We at the Haven, even though we're not currently regulated, for the sober living environment we provide, hold ourselves to a very high standard.
Tighter regulations would include random inspections to make sure that the people running these programs are helping, not hurting, those trying to stay sober.
A technology conference has educators thinking about how online learning works. We'll show you one USC school whose online numbers are booming.
Beer prices may increase soon, but not because of low supply. We'll take you to one brewery that is trying to get ahead of the curve.
And LA Trade Tech is trying to attract high schoolers to pursue a career in manufacturing. We'll be right back.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 5 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Got a quarter?
LA Trade Tech College hosted a manufacturing expo today. Leaders from a wide range of industries met with high school students to get them excited about career possibilities.
I absolutely believe that manufacturing is critical to the future of our community. And I'm also of the belief that if we don't get students excited about manufacturing, we're going to lose out. I need the future of young men and young women to go to work in our communities and do the best job they can. I stand here today and I'm looking at my future. I'm counting on them.
Engineering, aerospace technology, and even a bakery were represented at the expo.
I think LA Trade Tech offers a lot of great possibilities that they might not know exist, especially in technology, manufacturing. Events like these are great for them to gain that awareness, perspective, network, and and just kind of see what's possible.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Los Angeles has more workers in manufacturing than any other city in the country. Most of them work in transportation equipment, apparel, and electronics. Well, Friday ended our good weather streak.
Absolutely. The rain came out of nowhere, I feel like. But now it looks like we're back on the good weather streak, so let's toss it to Sherry for more.
And Sophia, you are absolutely correct because we are expecting sunshine and a lot of it. Take a look at current conditions. Fair skies and a nice 77 degrees. So leave the jacket at home, but then again, it does drop at night, so you can actually keep it. Take a look at our 5-day forecast. Well, right here, it's pretty consistent all across the day. We're talking 80s, 84 on Thursday, and still on Monday, drops just a few, but 80 degrees and 60s all throughout the evening. But do expect very dry weather. The Santa Ana winds came in with full force yesterday. They won't be quite as strong today, but you'll notice that the air is quite dry. Still getting these northeast winds at 25 to 40 miles per hour with some occasional gusts, and that will give us that fire threat for everybody west of the mountains except for the high desert. So as you see on my map here, it's all across the winds. You will expect a pickup from Temecula all through Los Angeles and continuing north. Back to you, Roy and Sophia.
Thank you, Sherry. I felt those winds the other day, and I was wondering where they were coming from because we're not that close to the beach.
Absolutely, and they were really warm winds too. I just hope that because they're so warm and dry that they don't start too many wildfires.
I do too.
Cracking open a cold one? A new study shows beer prices could double worldwide as climate change affects barley crops. Alexandria Bell went to a local distillery to find out more.
Thirsty Thursdays, tailgate season, and happy hour may never be the same. A new study on global warming says that barley, a key ingredient in beer, is being affected by rising temperatures. An associate professor at UC Irvine and co-author of the study says that we could see an increase in beer prices.
This is another example of a study that shows one of the very many ways that climate change is actually going to touch our daily lives.
Green Bar Distillery in downtown LA says that it has discontinued vanilla bean vodka. Green Bar used to buy its vanilla beans from Mexico, but says that because of climate change and increasing prices, they were no longer able to keep the vodka in production. The owner of Green Bar says that alcohol may become more of a luxury because of climate change. They also specialize in whiskey. Today, the Beer Association said that consumers should not be worried about the study and that the beer industry is preparing for climate change. For Annenberg Media, I'm Alex Bell.
Well, I heard the Dodgers have a playoff game tonight.
And I heard they lost last night. Let's take it to our sports anchor, Robbie Aronson, to find out more.
That's right, Roy. And the fans were a little bit lackluster in that game. We talked to people to discover why. And the water polo team scored a last-second winner against Stanford over the weekend. We caught up with a player who scored. The USC football team travels to Utah this weekend. We'll take a look at that game. Let's call a timeout. We'll be back with sports after the break.
Recently, our country has witnessed catastrophic devastation. Hurricanes and flooding have upended lives and livelihoods.
Across this great country, Americans have answered the call.
That special calling that compels us, when others are down, to step up and do whatever it takes.
America's at her best when, against all odds, we come together and lift each other up.
Please donate to oneamericaappeal.org. America needs you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listened.
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
The Dodgers are in the NLCS, but according to players, it seems like nobody cares. Dodger Stadium clearly lacked energy last night. We spoke to fans to find out why.
I still think it's been like a little bit
like pretty popular, but maybe so because there's other LA teams out there, like the Rams are coming up.
I think one of the problems that the Dodgers have sometimes is come playoff times, they just don't come through in the clutch. And I think just keeping the energy up all the time is what's so important.
Although we have loyalty for the city, it's kind of like dead because there's not much to be hype around. So once LA gets back on the scene, especially with the Lakers and LeBron, I think that crowd participation and hype and just fandemonium will build back up and we'll get to where we need to be with our LA group.
Dodgers player Kike Hernandez called out the fans last night saying, "We had no energy. The stadium had no energy. The fans had no energy. Overall, it was a pretty bad game for everybody who calls themselves Dodgers." Sports professor Jeff Fellenzer, however, believes that Dodgers fans are some of the best in baseball.
The Dodgers averaged 47,000 fans a game this year. That was by 5,000 the most in baseball. They led the league in attendance again, 3.8 million. So it's really hard for me to understand criticism of fans, especially considering in LA what a challenge it is to get to the games. You know, it's hard when you're drawing people from so many different areas, most of which, almost all of which, are coming from outside of the downtown area.
Hernandez later tweeted an apology to Dodgers fans for his previous remarks. LA will need all the support they can get tonight as they take on the Brewers in Game 4. Anwar, over to you.
Thanks, Robbie. We're on a award tour with Merced, my man. The freshman is having the time of his life, scoring the game-winning goal against Stanford last Sunday. And now he's the MPSF Player of the Week. We asked him how it felt.
It's nice, but individual awards are secondary to our team's success. So I'm just putting it out there. Like anyone in my team could have been MPSF Player of the Week. What we have been doing so far has proved to be an excellent tactic.
Merced and the young Trojans will look to continue their dominance over the weekend after a 6-day break. They play the Long Beach State 49ers this Saturday on the road. From the pool to the pitch. With another victory in Pac-12 play, women's soccer maintained their #2 ranking this week. We spoke with senior forward Leah Pruitt about the team's chemistry and desire for a national title.
We're at home, we have all of our fans, and it means a lot to us to defend our ground and win here. This team, we definitely can win another national championship. I think we have the talent and the work ethic to do it. We're so close and united, and I think we have really good chemistry on the field and off the field.
Leah Pruitt was named Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week after scoring her career-high 8th goal of the season this weekend. She was also named in Top Drawer Soccer's National Team of the Week. The women of Troy have their last home games of the season this weekend. They will face Oregon State on Thursday and the Oregon Ducks on Sunday to hopefully keep their win streak alive.
Coming off of a 31-20 win over Colorado last weekend, USC football is now preparing to play Utah on the road. They'll travel to Salt Lake City without linebacker Porter Gustin, who's out for the season with an ankle injury. Nevertheless, this Pac-12 South matchup is shaping up to be an exciting one, with JT Daniels having put up big numbers recently with playmakers like Michael Pittman and Tyler Vaughns at receiver. USC will hope to stay on top of the Pac-12 South with a win on Saturday. Now it's time for our weekly predictions. Anwar, you won last week, you were the closest, but I bet you I'll redeem myself this week. What do you think? What's going to happen?
Look, Robbie, we have a tough game this weekend. It's in Utah. You know there's no air up there. It's going to be really tough to get to score on this team. But you know what? Utah is weird. They beat Washington State, but they lost to Washington. They're just all over the place, and they beat Stanford. You know, we thrive on chaos, and I think it's going to be a defensive affair, and where our defense is going to shine even without Porter and without Cam Smith. I got us in a close one on Saturday, 20-17.
Anwar, you're crazy, man. USC has not looked good on the road this year. No way they win. 24-10 to Utah. And that's it with football. The game will take place on Saturday at 5 o'clock. Roy and Sophia, back to you.
Thanks, guys. We'll hear about the best practices for online learning.
We'll be right back.
Hey guys, Danny Trejo here. There was going to be a whole song and dance routine about how you should wait your turn to enter the train. But they got me, Danny Trejo, to talk to you instead. Look, when you don't wait your turn to enter the train, it's rude and potentially dangerous. And believe me, I know a thing or two about rude and dangerous. I'm Danny Trejo. Don't be like rude, dude. Be kind, like super kind. Excuse me.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
More than 200 educators attended the Technology and Education Conference at Cal State Dominguez Hills today. Presenters discussed the best practices for online learning. Employees from LinkedIn and Blackboard help teachers learn about programs available to their campuses. Programs include online learning platforms for courses such as digital marketing and graphic design. Representatives from the companies believe online courses can be extremely beneficial.
LinkedIn Learning is an online video tutorial platform. It's actually formerly called lynda.com, and the Marshall School of Business has access for all of their students for free. So the school pays for access for all faculty, staff, and students to get the content anytime they want to, anywhere.
I already had a lot of responsibilities, meaning I had a wife, children, a work that I needed in order for us to, just sustain ourselves. So factoring in online education, trying to continue to advance my professional goals, but also just the appetite for continuous learning, online education was the best avenue for me to accomplish that, while also attending to the other responsibilities.
USC offers over 100 online courses. According to the university's Office for Institutional Research, the Marshall School of Business has some of the highest numbers of online students. Numbers so high, they're growing their programs.
Making sure that the faculty and students feel that the growth for the learning is very good. We hope to put some certificates online in the next few months to a year. Yes, we are continuing to grow. We will bring another cohort into the MBA on August. Usually we bring in one cohort in August and one in January, but we will double that next year.
The university as a whole has approximately 8,000 students enrolled in online classes year-round.
Thanks for watching Annenberg TV News. From everyone here at Annenberg Media, I'm Roy Pankey.
And I'm Sophia Hausch. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com. Good night. Well, guys, I heard Lady Gaga got engaged.
I know